need sleep. I'm a success now. I'm trying so hard not to sleep.
You need sleep? Stop hitting me with the stick. This is the plan. This is
Stop
the one
hitting
you
me
got
with
done.
the stick.
That was the one.
You little bitch. And Charlie was like, I'm gonna shoot that stick on his ass. And then Frank was like,
Okay, guys, tomorrow is the day. Oh, man. It can be said for the last several elections, but it's true. I don't think there's ever been more hype, certainly more vitriol leading into an election than there has been this year. And there's obvious reasons why. It's social media, it's the internet. And again, I don't say that disparagingly. I'm a big technology geek. I love technology, but it's just the fact of it. Being able to exchange information as easily as we can now, and by exchanging information, I mean opposing sides throwing shit at each other, it's going to make things vitriolic. So this video here is just, I want to talk about one thing that I hope we can all agree on as far as the election tomorrow and the days that follow. And then I'll also give you guys my prediction, my final prediction as to how I think the election is going to go. And again, this is just from what I see, just giving you my thoughts on how I think it's going to unfold. I did that yesterday in a live stream, but we weren't able to leave that live stream up as video on demand because we have text to speech going on in a lot of our live streams, and it's just for a good time. And there were some posts that were rather bawdy, rather randy. Nobody was being out of line with the election, calling each other names, anything like that. It was stuff strictly separate from elections, but there were some eye openers in there. There were some really dark jokes and stuff, and YouTube's very sensitive sensibilities wouldn't allow for that to stay up. Now, the first thing I should mention, though, too, is we will be streaming tomorrow. I plan on streaming. I'll post that stream later today, or post the time for that stream later today. We'll be streaming as the results come in. I believe here I'm in Eastern time zone, United States. They start coming in at 7 p.m. So we'll start streaming at 6 p.m. We can all hang out, talk, and watch as they come in. I won't be able to stay up through the night with you guys on it just because I get up at 5:15 every morning to start making videos, and my old ass can't do the late night, early morning thing anymore. But we'll definitely get a good feel for how things are going to go before we stop streaming. And now this is what I wanted to talk to you about as far as one thing I hope we can all agree on. Regardless of who wins that election tomorrow, the days that follow are going to be really testy. Again, the vitriol, the absolute hatred that each side seems to demonstrate for each other now is just off the charts. And so my concern is, what is the losing side going to do? We're already seeing the government being concerned about that as well, because in 3 states, I believe it was Nevada, Washington State, and Oregon, the National Guard has apparently been mobilized just in case there is fallout from the election. Now, you can only obviously assume they're up there in case Trump wins. Those are states that Harris victory should be accepted very well, and a Trump victory is something that I think a lot of the extremists up there are just not willing to accept. So we're already seeing that the government is aware of this. Now, that's not to throw all the stones at the left, because trust me, if Harris wins, we're still going to be on high alert. For me, I think, as I've said in the past, if you look at each party's extreme branches, the left gravitates more towards the protest, the formal protest, put together a protest, let's all get together and make our voices heard. The problem, there's no issue with that. The problem is then you have the bad actors who take advantage of that to loot, steal, set things on fire, commit violence against other people. So that's the problem there. I do believe if Harris wins, you're still going to have a lot of potential issues. I think they'll be more pocketed. I don't think they'll be as coordinated. I think you'll have these people that are real extremists. And again, I'm not saying that this this makes them less dangerous. Actually, it's probably more, because you got some people on the extreme right that if Trump loses, I guarantee you 100% without a doubt, they will be convinced that the election was stolen again, because they're still convinced 2020 was. And I think they're going to act out, and it could get really bad. So all I'm saying is that, listen, as a word of advice, if you can not be out and about in the days right after the election, I think you're probably better off. I've told my wife about that. I've asked her, anything we need in the house, anything you want me to get or anything like that, or anything we need to have there, let me know. I'll get it now. I don't want her to have to go out. And it's not because I think anybody's targeting anyone. It's just that as you're out and about, especially that day after, I think there's the potential for a lot of flare-ups, where you, as I had said before, you're just in the market and a couple people are from the winning team are talking about how happy they are and how glad they are that the other side was thrashed. And the next aisle over, you got somebody from the losing team. Next thing you know, words are exchanged. Then the next thing you know, everybody's taken aside as things start to get more heated. And I don't want my wife in the midst of all that. And I don't want any of you guys, I don't want anybody to get hurt in the midst of all that. So if you do have to be out and about, just kind of have your head on a swivel and be aware of everything that's going on around you. Basically, can we all just agree that every state and the federal government as well should really be ready to take action if things go off the rails? Now, it's easy to say this right now because nobody knows who's going to win tomorrow. It's not like one side saying that we need to go out there with nightclubs and beat people down because it's going to be my team. No, what I'm saying is this should not be allowed to go off the rails. If people want to protest, that's their right in America. As soon as it crosses over from that, whether it's people storming a Capitol building or whether it's people setting fire to businesses and victimizing randoms on the street, either way, that should be squashed immediately. I think we should have, if we're ever going to learn from our mistakes and not getting this stuff under control, now would be a good time. Can't we both sides agree before we start counting the votes, so we don't know who's going to win, who's going to lose, that we would like to have everything in place, statewide, federal-wide, to make sure that things don't get crazy? Because why should any innocents get victimized because of the results of an election? Okay, and as far as my prediction, where I am right now, I think it's a Trump electoral college victory, gives him the presidency. Not sure he wins the popular vote. I would say probably doesn't. And I do think that, I should mention that too, I think if Trump wins the EC and not the popular vote, I think that's going to make the reaction from the extreme left even all the more potentially violent, because again, you hear it now all the time that it's from the extreme left. They want the electoral college banished. They don't want that to be the case. They want a straight Democratic vote. That's never going to happen, because the process for doing it here in America, you'll never see a time where all the hoops could properly be jumped through to make that the case, to take the electoral college away. And that infuriates a lot of them. But here's why. And again, this is just my prediction. There are two big factors that make me think Trump's going to squeak it out. And again, I don't think it's going to be a slam dunk. I don't think it's going to be a landslide. I think it's going to be very close. But I think he ekes it out because, first of all, the early vote. What we're seeing as far as party affiliation in the early vote heavily favors Republicans. Well, not heavily favors. They have far outperformed what they did in early votes in 2016 and 2020. And I mean by a lot. Now, that in itself is not an indicator that Trump wins. A lot of Democrats are saying, well, a lot of Republicans are going to be switching sides over to and voting Democrat. I haven't seen anything that makes me believe that. There's always a percentage. There's always a small percentage on each side that does that. I haven't seen anything that makes me believe that percentage is going to be any bigger this time around. So the thing is, okay, they're doing better in the early vote. So are Democrats waiting until election day to vote? That's possible. I just don't, I think those numbers are so substantially inflated for Republicans this time that I don't think the Democrats can make up that difference on election day. I don't think they can cut into what happened on prior election days enough against the Republicans. And again, that's just my opinion. The other really big thing that I've read from several pollsters, most recently one of the New York Times pollsters, has said that they're still having a significant problem getting white Republicans to respond to the polls. That is largely why Trump has overperformed in the past two elections. It's just that it's not hard to figure out why. A lot of Republicans, especially the extremists, do not trust the media in any way, shape, or form, and they see these pollsters as an extension of that media, and they will not respond to them. That has been an issue before. Apparently, it continues to be an issue. And given that these polls have the swing states so dead tight, if that's true and they're still having a significant problem getting white Republican voters to respond as opposed to white Democrat voters or Democrats in general, it makes you think that Trump is going to overperform again. And even if it's not by as much as in prior elections, even a couple points with the polls being as close as they are, give it to Trump. So those are the two big things that I believe point me towards a Trump victory. Now, again, just one guy's opinion. I definitely could be wrong. I've been wrong before. So, okay, you're saying, so, okay, that's, if that's the case, then how does Kamala win? You just gave me all the reasons that it looks bleak for her. No, it's very easy to figure out how Kamala still wins. If Dems are simply waiting to vote on election day, and if independents were to break more for Kamala for the Democrats than they have in the past, if that percentage is bigger, where the independents are breaking hard towards the Dems, yeah, that'll put Kamala over the top. The other thing is, too, if there isn't an enthusiasm gap, which I think there is right now, because, again, the early voting show the Republicans much more enthusiastic. If there really isn't that huge enthusiasm gap, and instead it's just this year Democrats are waiting until election day to vote because there's no pandemic and, they don't, so there's not as many of them that felt the need to vote by mail, so on and so forth. If we find out that that enthusiasm gap is not there or is not as big as it looks in the early voting, and tomorrow Democrats come out in huge force, Kamala's golden. So those are two simple ways that everything that I feel gives it to Trump gets negated. If the independents are breaking hard towards the left, or if Kamala gets out a much larger percentage of the vote from Democrats on the election day, on the actual day, she gets it. So basically, I'm going to tell you what pretty much any reputable pollster is kind of telling you right now. It's a toss-up. And even if I don't see it as a clear toss-up, if I see that Trump has a little bit of an edge, it's still close enough. Look at it this way. If I think that Trump, let's say I'd put him at 54 to 46%, not points, percent ahead as far as who wins. A 46% chance is still that close to a coin toss. It could go either way. Those are my thoughts on it. Hopefully a lot of you guys will be able to hang out with us tomorrow as we watch the results roll in, and we can all talk about it together. But the big thing is, no matter which way it goes, just be careful in especially the day after the election, but in the days following, maybe even weeks following the election. Just be careful what's going on out there, because there are places where it could get ugly, and I don't want to see anybody get hurt.
As representative of
Jar Jar, look out!
Yeah, Jar Jar's annoying. Yeah, I get it.